Добрый день.
Good morning. Dear participants, we are very happy to have the full audience, which means that the topic of the round table is really a burning one and interesting for all. And I would like to say thank you to all of you, and I'm sure that you were doing it many times yourself. So let's once again try to realize that we are here at the 19th World Festival of Youth and Students. Let's say thank you to ourselves. Let's thank the teachers and all of those who supported us and helped us to come down here. And we'll thank our unique speakers who have attended and visited us to share their views. Me, as a participant of the two festivals of 1985 and 1989 in Pyeongchang, suddenly realized that the scale of the event and the involvement of the youth in solving both cultural, creative, and social and civil responsibility is growing and their involvement is growing. And I'm very happy that if this Pyeongchang festival had 180 countries and 22,000 people, our festival has gathered more than 50,000 of participants and 220 countries. Please raise your hands, those who are from Russia. Thank you. From Europe. From Asia. The percentage now is clear. It will be important for our speakers who in a number of their occupations are working with international audience. And my first question is to our speaker, the person of unbelievable talent, very diverse talent, who owns and manages and rules the hearts and souls of millions, hearts of people all over the world. Frédéric Beigbeder. Frédéric, what is for you freedom and responsibility as a writer, as the person who rules the minds and hearts of millions of people?
Здравствуйте. Меня зовут Фредерик Бекбедер.
My name is Frédéric Beigbeder.
I am 52 years old. I don't understand why an old man like me is invited to the World Festival of Youth. And especially, I don't understand why they invite an alcoholic like me and they have no vodka. Okay. I suppose maybe it's a mistake. They wanted to invite somebody else, but he was in prison, so it doesn't matter. Now, I am supposed to talk to you about my experience of life. I will try to tell you a few things that I wish someone told me when I was 20. The first thing is, go out. Don't study too much. Going out at night was my university. This is more important than learning marketing or management. When you go out, you have to find a way to talk to people, become funny, know good songs, learn how to dance, seduce, dress nicely, find your style. So all this you learn when you go out. My second advice, quit Facebook. When you are not out at night, don't go on social media. Read. Read a lot. I spend all my youth reading books, comics, magazines, science fiction novels, crime stories, poetry, and of course, the classics. Why? Because literature makes you less stupid. It's never a waste of time. It gives you something to say when you go out. Believe me, if you read a lot now, it will be useful all your life. One day you will thank me. When you're young, you have so much energy, so much desire, you think you are the king of the world, like Leonardo DiCaprio. But remember, he dies in the end of Titanic. The good thing about being 20 is that you are sensitive. All my deepest emotions I felt in my life happened when I was young. Before 25, you fill your brain with beauty, with sadness, madness, humor, and anger for the rest of your life. And if you are Russian, you are lucky because you have the greatest literature in the world. Read Eugene Onegin, The Dream of Tatiana. Tatiana, she's running in the snow. She's afraid. A bear is running after her. And then the bear carries her to a strange party where she sees Onegin. And she falls in love with the wrong guy. So, you know, the message of the author is to listen to your dreams. 100 years before Freud, he had this, he understands this. Another example, in Anna Karenina, Tolstoy pays a tribute to Onegin. There is a train stopped by the snow, and Anna Karenina, there is also a beer, by the way. And so Anna Karenina arrives in chapter 18, which is crazy, you know. It's because life is crazy. That's the message of Tolstoy. Don't try to control life. Just live it. Two masterpieces telling the same story. We always fall in love with the wrong person. That's something you will never learn in school. And it can kill you or turn you into a great poet. Remember, don't do wrong things with the wrong person tonight. So, I learned also a lot reading Dostoevsky. No, I did not learn a lot. I learned everything. Everything about gambling, alcoholics, St. Petersburg, prostitutes, prison, freedom, guilt, crime, revolution, and terrorism. Everything is in Dostoevsky. So another advice I found in a famous Russian novel, Oblomov. Yeah. So this advice is stay in bed. You don't need 10 appointments a day. Never work. I love this. Everybody wants a job. And Goncharov says, it's bullshit. Do nothing. This is a good advice. Be lazy. You know, in the morning when you wake up tired, go back to sleep. So Russian literature, Russian people, you are lucky because you can read it in Russian. I read it in translation. it's better to read books in the original version. So this is the World Festival of Youth and Students. You cannot think global if you don't read global. You have to read books from everywhere, but also magazines from foreign countries, so you know the opinion of other people about planet Earth. Globalization, it's not cool if it's only buying IKEA furniture or eating McDonald's. Globalization is not that. It's curiosity to open to other cultures, different art from other countries. And now it's possible, with the internet, it's possible to know the whole planet and know that there is global warming, that we have to save our differences, that we have to accept each other. I think this is the lesson of globalization. So I would say my three advice: go out, read books, travel. It's important to travel when you're young. Maybe later when you have children, you don't have the freedom to travel that much, so you have to travel now, everywhere. Open your eyes, open your mind to all the planet. Okay, I would like to give you one last advice. I'm sorry I'm very long, but I prepared this, so I wanted just to give my message, and after we will talk together. I'm sorry, excuse me. I would like to give a fourth advice. Don't listen to any advice.
Be a little high, and it would be loneliness. I'd like to give the floor to the next speaker. Please, we'll do that later. So, next speaker. I'm sure most people know this person. This is a very famous and talented actor, Russian actor, head of the Moscow Theater. Is a member of the Patriarch Council of the Russian Orthodox Church and the public committee at the Defense Ministry. So, Sergei, for you, as an actor who's loved and adored by so many Russian people and people abroad, for a person who's very actively involved in working with adults and children in the social sphere, what is freedom and responsibility for you? What's important for you? What do you pay attention to? Well, as for freedom, I think I've taken a picture with everyone. No? No? Well, as for absolute freedom, well, Frederick mentioned selfies just now, and people went wild. Don't take this away from us, right? This was a joke about freedom, you understand. But as for absolute freedom of communication, I'd like to welcome all the participants of this World Festival. This is freedom. We all need freedom. As for responsibility, you know, I put on a suit today. I need to live up to your standards. And for us, this is a celebration. This is an interesting occasion. You know, there are different interpretations of freedom. Some people think it's anarchy. It's when you're allowed to do whatever. So you need to understand for yourself that freedom is freedom of expression, freedom of expressing what you think. It's especially important when you're in doing something creative. So as an artist, you have the right to express what you believe. As for being allowed to do whatever you want, that means no responsibility. So what kind of limiting factors do we have? Upbringing. Frederick mentioned going back to the institution of family. In the Soviet times, people said, what influences upbringing? Family, school, and your colleagues. So it's really true. It kind of builds those moral laws and principles that you do not cross and you do not break. So there is some kind of internal freedom that's limited by your moral principles, universal for all human beings. But time shows us that civilization is moving forward, and it's not always universally good. Sometimes a well-developed civilization is not really high in morality. You know, wars continue even though they're at odds with any moral principles. Civilization is developing new technology. We have it every day. It's advancing. And in 5-10 years, we don't really know where we are going to be, but I hope that there will be no more wars and that we will serve the arts. Making the world a better place is the responsibility of an artist. That's the purpose of any art. You don't have to put rose-tinted glasses on the world and turn it into some kind of candy shop where everything is rosy. Well, you have like shock therapy and surgeries, right? As a comparison, I'd like to mention Mr. Zvagantsev's movie, Loveless. It's at the Cannes Festival. It's a very difficult film, but it touches upon a very serious problem. It's a very serious film. So after it, I have to tell you, I needed to kind of breathe out and relax and watch something very light-hearted. Or Arithme by Boris Khlebnikov. It's all true. Well, is this the purpose of art? Yes. Films like these, you feel bad physically, but sometimes you really need to say these difficult things to make the world a better place. So it's different, and the artist has a 100% responsibility for it. And sometimes whatever an artist produces, whether it's a book, a movie, a play, of course this is a match that could light things on fire. And sometimes it will just blow up. And for myself, when I look at my work at the theater, I always perceived it, a film, a play. I have a small company, you know, Sergei Bezrukov. I always tried to see how useful it might be for society, what kind of message the audience can take from it, what people could learn. You don't really have to impose your opinion. People don't like it when you try to impose opinions on them, especially young people. And this World Festival of Youth and Students, it was established back in the Soviet era in 1985. It took place in Moscow. I remember that. Yeah, we do need ideology in the good sense. We do need ideas. I don't really just stage plays. I'm trying to relay a message about things that I find concerning, that are important to me. The idea is really the same. You're kind of showing what kind of person you are. Well, yeah, it's a kind of narcissism. You express what kind of person you are. This is the message for the world. So what are you giving to people? If you're trying to present your view on this problem, you have to be really interested in it. You have to be concerned. And an artist expresses this. Nowadays, I think it's important to try to find a solution, an answer. So if we take a serious film that's centered around a serious problem, I'd like the director, the artist, to think maybe fantasize a little about how to solve this problem. Artists are people, are trusted people, and you have to bear this responsibility. You have to be brave to maybe make up a solution, try to think about it. That's what we're trying to do in our theater. We take a problem, we talk about it, and we try to show what kind of solution we envision for it. It's the same with films, really. That's all I wanted to say on the subject. It's a very complex subject. It's quite difficult to take care of it. Well, you have to have internal censorship. That's a result of your upbringing. For example, not to have swear words on stage. That's internal censorship. It doesn't mean that this language is never used in movies. Sometimes you need this for shock therapy. You need to use swear words to underline the problem. But doing it every day in theater, on stage, I don't approve of that. Many people come to our place. Some of them are very young. And if an actor starts irresponsibly speaking in this language, of course, they're like, they take this in. They understand that if adults are doing that, they can do that as well. And talking to you here today, well, I don't think I'm such a young person, but in my soul, deep in my soul, thank you for dimming the lights, right? I guess it's nicer to speak to young people in the dark. Every time I come on stage as an actor, I understand that you are looking at me. You're taking it in, everything, like little children. Young people are the same. And as you come on stage, you are responsible for what you say, what you do, because you're kind of programming your audience. So this is a responsibility you bear. Thank you. Thank you, Sergey. Very fast questions, please. I'm here. I'm here. Ask your question. I'm Yana. And the first thing I'd like to tell you is hi from the Moscow region. We have a stand here. Please come around. I'm from Klin, and I'm the single representative of the city on the festival. Please be brief. Don't introduce yourself. Klin remembers you. Thank you. So my question, what kinds of inspiration, what kind of feelings and emotions we can take from this festival to use in our future, to implement in our future? Well, just don't say feelings and friends. No, I think this is a great answer. You're together here. You're not talking through Skype or the internet. You're talking face to face. It is a problem, even in restaurants. Everyone is looking at their devices, gadgets. Have you noticed? There are several young people sitting at the same table, and they don't talk to each other. They're using their phones to message someone else. So what I think solidarity and power lies in is communication, common ideas, common viewpoints, looking for compromises and similar positions and interaction. Sergey, I'm Dmitry from Tula. We are short on time, so on October 18th is Sergey's Sergey's birthday, so happy birthday. I'd like to wish you best of luck in your endeavors and health, of course. We all know that Sergey played Yesenin, Pushkin, and also a criminal. So, Sergey, what's your secret? You have played so many different roles. How do you do it? You know, it's going to take me an hour and a half to answer this. It's just my profession. It's what I do. So what do you do when you're sad? Well, smiling and looking happy is the most difficult art in the world. Last question for Sergey, please. Hello from Ulyanovsk. I'm Nadezhda. I established Batchka Online project, and in our public, religious people from all the world, priests answer questions from different people all over the world. So I would like to ask you why versus battles are so popular now. You know, when rappers, for example, are sort of destroying each other in these battles of kinds. Like Oxymoron, he used a lot of swear words talking about, he quoted Gumilyov, and his opponent used a lot of swear words. And all these people are looking at battles, and they're not going to see plays. So why is this happening? Well, I don't think it's right to say that everyone does the same thing and likes the same thing and watches the same thing. I don't really know if you could call this kind of battle an art. You need to draw the line where art is and where imitation is. I'm not going to do that because I'm going to attract quite a negative reaction, I think. So it's hard to draw that line. It's hard to understand what's real and what's fake. And some people say that, no, we don't accept that, we don't like that. And in a year, in 10 years, or half a century, or a century, artists gain understanding and recognition. They sort of pass through time. So that's what our time dictates, this kind of communication. And I don't know, we attract a lot of people. Welcome to our theater. We don't lack audience. And of course, words have a lot of energy. I'd like to quote Maximilian Voloshin and his short poem. You know, it's 2017, it's 100 years since the Russian Revolution. So, you know, there is some excitement, and some people are actually going to celebrate, and some people are going to remember that we had the Civil War. But anyway, Mr. Voloshin's poem, listen to this. The things that we feel now after the USSR fell apart. So listen to this. We are done. Russia is done with. We drunk and we destroyed Russia. We sold it. No one needs land or freedom. Oh, dear God, please open the skies and rain fire. Please let the Germans come, let the Mongols come from east, from the west. Let us be slaves so that we can deal with our sins. 1918, Voloshin.
Thank you, Sergey. Sorry for being so emotional. Okay, let's applaud to Sergey for his time. Thank you very much. So the next speaker whether we like it or not, whatever we do in our life, sooner or later, it just comes to an end, and we pass away, leaving behind our human experience, let's call it this way. So the next speaker, the General Director of the Museum of the Modern Art of Russia, Modern History of Russia, the person who is physically dealing with culture, contributing to the development of the state, Irina Velikanova. Irina, what is the most important thing for you now? What are the trends you can see in the development of those two notions, freedom and responsibility? Well, first of all, I'm very happy that this festival of youth and students is conducted in Russia. And our Museum of Modern History of Russia also has contributed our small part into it, because the Assessment Commission, International Commission, visited our museum and was stunned as to how well we are keeping and safeguarding whatever's related and tied with the previous festivals, the festivals of 1957, and with the fact that despite the perestroika and the 90s, when a lot was negated, and what the Soviet historiography had been teaching, we managed to keep it and preserve it in our museum. And here's the responsibility of a historian, of those who popularize history. There should be no lies, and we should carefully preserve whatever's related to our national history, because history of a country, its language, its culture, that's what make up the genetic code of the nation. And that's the responsibility of both a historian and a cultural actor. Whatever, I mean, just any performer, or you should always understand that you are a step ahead, and you understand more, and you feel more, and that's where his responsibility lies before himself and the society and the history. Moreover, Sergei said rightly that now it makes us very happy that the works are appearing now, I mean, movies, books, which really make you be compassionate, because they make your soul work. And an artist is like a physician, and the main principle should be don't damage, don't. And the last thing, we had a great poet, unfortunately passed away recently, Evgeny Yevtushenko. And he said, by the way, you know that before his death, he had been collecting pictures. Pirosmani gave him pictures, and he made photos. And before his death, he had given over his gallery, which is in Peredelkino, near Moscow, to our museum, because Yevtushenko, well, he didn't give it over to the literary museum, but to the historical museum, the modern history of Russia, because he believed and that a poet in Russia is much more than a poet, because he felt himself a part of the history and his country, and he felt himself very responsible for the people and the society and for the country. That's why, needless to say, there can be no freedom without responsibility, for the reasons that I've just mentioned. And the most important thing today, objective, is to preserve the memory of our history, because we had two extremes. First, we had Soviet historiography, which kept silent about many facts. And sometime after 1917, history was not even taught at school, because at one of the congresses of teachers, Lunacharsky, who was the Minister of Education, Commission was saying that teaching history it is important. We have to throw away the past because there are no good examples to replicate. So only later history started to be taught. But in the 90s, there was another extreme. We started to negate our history, saying that we had a history of a gloomy history. And there might be one country, we can find a country in whose history there's no violence or blood. And now in the 21st century, when we're looking into the future, we should realize and understand the processes that we had underway just in the nearest past. And that's our responsibility. And also you are to know history well. And I hope and believe very much that the majority of Russians here, that you present here, that you belong to the 11%, those who really know well who was toppled by the Bolsheviks back in the 1917. And recently there was questionnaires, and only 11% of the young people gave the right answer. The others said that back in the 1917 they toppled the Tsar. So thank you very much. Thank you very much, Irina. It's a very important piece of information and some milestones that you've outlined and some trends and aspects, and I'm sure the youth will take it into account. So again, folks, very short questions, very short introductions, and very short questions. Good afternoon. My name is Vyacheslav Chervikov. My question is as follows. Very important to preserve our national history and culture. My question is as follows. How to preserve and how to popularize our national culture, because many of the young people don't even remember the fact what kind of traditions we used to have, what kind of crafts we used to have in Russia. Yes, Vyacheslav, you're right. You're absolutely right. And your question is very right. It's a problem. It's a huge problem today because that we are unaware of our own history and the young generation. I hope there are those guys, those young people that are here, they're different. We don't know our history. We don't know our crafts or even the history of our families, great-grandmothers and fathers. We don't know anything about them. And I welcome very much the fact that at schools now, more and more attention is paid to humanitarian sciences because when the single or unified exam was introduced, there was a shift over to the precise science. But of course, it's good, but without humanitarian science, we will not be able to preserve the memory of our recent past. And as we all know and understand, that's exactly what is a part of the soul of the nation: culture, history, and language. So I support Foursquare, the recovery of humanitarian sciences that's now underway at school and in the society. Thank you very much. One more question. Good afternoon. My question, and I'm here. Look at me, please. I'm at the left side. It's about a family because in our region, about 70% of couples get divorced. What is a family in the modern world? Is it freedom, responsibility, or what's going on that couples think it quite okay to divorce? Well, yes, very difficult question. Certainly, because you know what? It is very popular now to have a civil marriage, so-called. First of all, because people just, young people, don't really want to take responsibility for the other person. Because if you get really married, it means that you are responsible for the person who's next to you, and for the children you have. And this civil facility is sort of a bizarre, I don't even know how to call it. There's a bad word of co-living or even tough word or obscenity. coexistence, co-living. Well, I think that a family is the most important thing. Well, we used to have this notion that a family is a piece of the society, a cell of the society. And the fact that people don't get married, don't want to get married, is because maybe their salaries are not big enough, and they don't want to take responsibility for keeping the second person, and well, I think that's wrong, but that's the choice of the young people. That's for you to decide, folks.
Before you marry.
Известная фраза.
Well-known phrase: "Love lives only 3 years." Why so? Please answer this question. Why? What's the secret? Well, I think that you have to wait. You have to wait, and if you love the person in 3 years, then you get married. That's my advice. A question to Irina. Good afternoon, Irina. I am to the right. I'm here. My name is Tokova Svetlana, and I am a professor of Kursk University, PhD in history. My question is, what do you think? What is the approach to learning history? Is it information when or civilization, or peculiar, special for Russia? And for Russia, is it possible to study history continuously, not to review every period before the revolution, after the revolution, the Soviet period, and by which positions? Thank you. You know, I don't think that 40 minutes will be enough to cover all the questions you've outlined, but the most important thing is the historical process is continuous, of course. Moreover, when we study history, I think that it's unacceptable to be guided by tens of textbooks that used to exist, because we used to have a huge product line of history textbooks, and I'm happy that we finally have one single textbook line. Outstanding scientists had been working at that, headed by Mr. Chubaryan. And they were in the mindset of continuous historical process. And I think that's the right thing to do. Thank you very much. Thank you. Let's applaud. Let's thank Irina once more. Let's be more active. And now I would like to introduce the next speaker, a unique artistic and organizational talent. People's Artist of Russia, director of the Moscow State Circus, general producer and moderator of the World Circus Art Festival Idol, Edgar Zapashny. And for you, the person who works not only with huge audience and big creative collective, but also with beasts, with animals. And what's the question? The question is, what is it for you? Freedom and responsibility. Good afternoon, dear friends. I will try to answer your question in the course of the whole thing. Well, since I'm the last to speak, I was very happy to see that Frederick needed only 10 years to change his opinion of Russia. Thank you very much for that. Though I'm convinced that the objective of today's forum, the main objective, is to make this process much shorter, for it not to be dragged for a decade, and for us to have at least 25,000 people coming from Sochi with good opinion of us. That's your task, folks. When I met backstage with our guests and could see how well dressed they are, I felt so uneasy. Sergei, Frederick wearing suits, but then Sergei said, well, I'm wearing a suit to look similar to you, because here I realized that he had made a mistake, because we have fewer people with ties. I would like to see the persons in the Troika. Well, in Troika. I mean, it was a three-piece suit. Well, responsibility, folks. I think I would like to be serious about that. Just recently, yesterday, I watched news, all the channels, and they showed how a bear ate a person, a human being. Okay, all channels were showing how a bear left a private zoo and ate up his own owner. But the line of the news was similar to, well, all animals should be left free and they will decide what to do in nature. That's great, that's freedom. But I am not really, I do not agree. And not because the animals should be in cages. No, not because of that. But because that they will know what to do themselves. No, folks, allow me to enumerate 5 types of animals who have disappeared in the decade on the planet. Everybody knows what the Red Book is. And do you know about the Black Book? You don't. Well, someone said no. Well, that's a book where the animals are put down, those who will never be here. The tiger of 1994, Iranian tiger, the last representative, Tyrrhenian, Capricorn, France, 2000, Canary Culex, 2007. And river dolphin, 2007, and Caribbean whale, 2007. Just recent disappearance. Here is the freedom of thought. When people say they will somehow do it themselves, don't interfere in their lives, and it's bad to communicate with animals, to try to teach them and train them. And I would like to ask a question of that tiger who disappeared. What do you think of us, of people, and only rough and tough because we allowed it to happen? And when my profession is demonized, well, it's so sad because I feel sad because we all have pets at home. Almost all of us have pets at home. And they became home pets. Why home? Because a human being, there was no profession of animal trainings because people spent time with those animals and wanted to communicate and learn how to be friends, showed themselves. And a dog became a friend, cat, cow, a goat, hen, or a horse became friends. So I have enumerated 5 types of animals, and they're all wild. 5 wild animals will never, ever exist on the planet. If we hadn't interfered in their lives, we hadn't interfered in their lives, and there's no life. And it becomes sad because of this position. And to a large extent, this today comes from not from zoo protectors or defenders, and I am protecting animals. It's from radicalists who occupy this kind of positions. That's exactly the word responsibility. We should not use such words. Let them do it on themselves, and nature will do it on. It's very tough. Nature is tough, and nature is very cruel. So working with animals and pets, we have to find the good sides. We have to learn, because your children, and you all will have children, will be brought up in a kind of way and more responsible way if you have pets at home. Because a child from very childhood starts to take care of them, realizing that this is a fragile creature, a fish, a tortoise, a dog. You have to feed it. You have to go for a walk. You cannot bring pain. And when my father, Walter Zapashny, gave a tiger baby to me, he said a very important thing. He's going to bite you, and it is going to be very painful. and you will throw him, and he will fall down from your height, and he will break his leg. But you have to be patient. And he's a tiger baby. Still, you will have to take care of him, even if it is very painful. So today, a lady asked about happiness. What's happiness? For me, happiness, it was not a question to me, but allow me to answer too. For me, happiness, and I will try to use two phrases. One, doctors are paid well, but they are jobless. But they are jobless. For us all to be healthy and sound and never address the doctors. And the second happiness is that I can kiss a tiger on his nose, and you cannot. Have I answered your question? Thank you. Thank you, Edgar. Thank you very much. A question, and I would like to ask you a question. You, guys, sorry, don't do that. Please go out from the stage, and we will come down. You, as a representative and a follower of the dynasty, of the great dynasty of the circus artists, the Zapashnes, what's for you important to hand over to your children from the point of view of freedom and responsibility? I don't think I should boil down to my profession only. Very important to teach your child to love your country and your neighbors. Because we've discussed it already backstage, and my profession of a circus performer allows me to immigrate to any country of the world, because I talk international language and I don't need translation, because Mongol, Tanzanian, Belarus will understand me. But I don't want to immigrate because I love my country, and I will work here, and I will do my best for us to change, for the country to change. Michael Jackson said, if you want to change the world, start with the person in the mirror. And he was right. And I would like to open now the Q&A. We have some time left. But before that, I will ask a question of each of the speakers and will request a blitz answer for a question. Be free in and be responsible for your children. Frederick?
And the other is 2. So I have responsibility, of course, as a father. But I have to say, as an artist, I feel freedom is more important than responsibility. I feel I can say whatever crazy thing comes to my mind, and I should never be censored by anybody. I need to be irresponsible. I need to be totally able to say even dirty, horrible stuff, because it's mankind, and we have to express humanity in art. That's what I believe in. I don't feel I need to control myself when I write. I just write everything that comes. Also about Russia. I love Russia, but this is the World Festival of Youth, and I think the planet, the world, is an important thing, and we all should think that we are here in the Tower of Babel. We are 180 countries, and it's important that it doesn't happen like it did in the Bible, where you know what happened to the Tower of Babel in the Bible. And it's so listening to each other, not thinking that countries are against each other, but that they can heal the world, like Michael said. So I really believe in this. And that's why I'm here, and that's why I like this festival because it's a world festival. It's not a Russian festival. Okay.
Спасибо огромное.
Thank you, Sergey. So, advice to a child: be free in and responsible for. So, if the child is going to be an artist, he should be free to imagine, freedom of imagination. So if you're a leader or a manager, remember that you're not the only person you're responsible for anymore. It's easier to be responsible just for what you do, but it's harder to bear responsibility for what someone else does. Thank you very much. Irina, your answer. Since we're the World Festival of Youth and Students, I hope that everyone always has the freedom of choice, always, but that you would still be responsible for the choice that you make. You bear responsibility to yourself and to everyone around you. Thank you, Irina. Invaluable advice. Mr. Zapashny, I agree with previous speakers, especially Sergey. He was absolutely right, so I'd like to add something. Be free to dream. Don't be shy. Don't be scared to dream. And be free enough to fulfill those dreams, to chase them. Thank you very much. We have a few minutes. More questions, please. I'm here in the center. I've been standing here. And there's no mic for me to take, please. So you're head of a big Moscow circus. What inspired you? I'll repeat your question. So why did I create a team to participate in a Russian humor competition as the director of a circus? Well, I love the show. I love this competition, and I'd love to change the perception of circus among young people and attract attention to this art, and having a team to participate in this huge Russian show is a good opportunity for me to do that. I have a question. Hello, dear panelists. I have a question. So a circus is a place where you dive into a dream world, and we all become like children. So when you perform, do you feel like you're a child deep inside, even though you're working at the time? Well, thank you for your kind words. Of course, it all depends on what kind of show we're putting on at the time. Me and my brother, we always understand that going to a circus is a kind of a family event. If you turn into a child, your adult audience is going to get bored, and vice versa. So you have to find a balance so that your different audience is equally entertained. Well, if you put your head between the tiger's jaws, well, you don't feel like a child, trust me. So, Mr. Zapashny, what about a moving zoo? What's your opinion? Well, there's a lot of discussion here. There are many violations. There's a lot of discrimination when it comes to zoos and moving circuses, traveling circuses. We need to sort this out. We can't ban anything because our country is huge. If we ban traveling zoos, traveling circuses, ban some towns and cities like Staraya or on Kamchatka, they'll never see a zebra or a camel. So with a country this huge, we can't ban anything. Yes, we need to sort it out. We need to introduce norms. We need to license maybe people and maybe take it away unless animals are kept in good conditions. Hello, I'm head of a circus center in Lipetsk. My name is Yulia. I'm very glad that you came here to the festival. Please come to our school. We'll show you what we can do. Please come and watch our show. Yes, I will. I will. Hello, Mr. Zapashny, Mr. Bezrukov, everyone. I have a question, a general question. Well, you are well versed in the language of the world, the art. But each of you have a language barrier to overcome. So how did you overcome it? You have a story, probably. Sergey, it's for the two of us. Well, we deal with the language barrier, yeah. I didn't even feel it. We're doing great so far. Just like you, really? I have a question. I'm from Crimea. Guys, we have a time limit, like 20 more minutes. Please be patient. Please, your question. I'm right here. Mr. Zapashny, you raised a very difficult subject. In Crimea, if you don't know, we have a huge zoo. It's a lion park, a safari park. And we have a hotel. There's a service. You can order to bring a tiger cub to your hotel room. Well, this is nonsense. You can order a tiger cub brought to your room. The rights are violated, the rights of this animal. Why is no one dealing with this? I basically answered your question when I was talking about traveling zoos. Of course, we need to sort these things out. We need to introduce certain norms and determine these things. I'm not a fan of people just communicating with carnivores. You know, they eat meat and it's kept under its claws, and if it scratches a child, for example, there can be sepsis. I'm not a fan. As for Crimea, the reunification wasn't so long ago, so I'm hopeful that we will sort this out there as well. I believe animals shouldn't suffer. Next question. Mr. Zapashny, I'm here. My question, I'm from Ulyanovsk. So there were many questions about responsibility. But as for keeping animals in Russian zoos, there are some unsanctioned zoos. Well, we're going in circles, really. No, it's not the same. It's not the same question. You were talking about traveling zoos. No, it's the same thing. Well, I'm not going to argue with you here, but how do we solve this problem? What kind of agencies or bodies should we address here? Well, we need to adopt a law. It hasn't been adopted yet. It's now going through the second reading at the State Duma. These norms should be implemented everywhere. But the radicals are for banning, for introducing bans, but I'm against that. Because if you ban these things, people will start closing zoos and circuses and then pets even, and we're going to put up this huge barrier between us and animals and exacerbate the problems that we already have. Please, I have a question. Sometimes we face difficulties. And your book was a great inspiration. How do you overcome difficulties? Let's repeat. Your book about love. So talent, is it a prize or please, you need a mic to ask your question. Here's your mic. Don't shout, please. Okay, again. I'm Aina Gageva. I'm from North Ossetia. Hi, from the Caucasus. Your book about love, it became insanely popular. It inspired a lot of people. I'm not even going to talk about 99 francs. Be brief, please. So talent, is it a prize or is it some kind of difficulty? Maybe artists, they fly high, but they fall hard. So how do you overcome difficulties?
When I'm happy. I write when I have a problem. So it's for me, writing is not a reward. It's painful, it's lonely, and also it's useless. When you write, I don't really think that I'm gonna do something good for the people. It's not like that. I wish it was like that, but it's not. I'm just trying to express in words my pain. So when I got divorced, for example, I wrote that the last 3 years, it was very melancholic. When I wrote 99 francs, it's because I was disgusted by the consuming and advertising that rules the world. And all my books it starts with a failure, with a disaster. And I try to make beauty with my own disasters. So that's, in a way, your question is, talent, is it a reward? That's maybe, in a way, it is. Because when you write about your suffering, it makes you feel better. It does. It's like talking to a psychoanalyst. There is a kind of therapy with writing. And when I put words on things that I don't understand or things that make me angry, I feel better. And I hope the reader also feels better.
Пожалуйста, следующий вопрос.
Next question, please. Hello, I'm here in the middle. My question is from Mr. Bezrukov. Sergey, is just wishing or is simple desire enough to change the world for the better? Well, if it's shared by many people, yes, sure. It's a common desire and conviction. As for talent, I'm going to answer this question. Well, every person is unique. There are no people that are the same. So for someone, it's a talent is a reward. For someone, it's punishment. Sometimes people are not ready for talent. It's a gift from God, which you need to accept. And you have to be ready for it. It's a gift from above. It's a gift, you know, so you need to treat it as such. Hello, my name is Bernikov Vladimir. I'm from Tula. I'd like to ask a question. First of all, it's addressed to Irina Velikanova, but everyone else can answer as well. Well, there's such an unpopular thing, folklore, you know, we're trying to promote it. The government is helping us with this, but sometimes artists produce very tasteless pieces of art masquerading as folklore. First of all, they're tasteless, and secondly, they're not popular. So many local authorities, the government, they help these people not because they're talented, but because they are determined and very active. This is a problem that we have these days. What's your question? My question is about funding. The government provides funding, and people who don't have any talent use it. Okay, no question. Next question. My question is to Irina Velikanova. My name is Roxana. So your opinion on the following. We know that history is being twisted now and rewritten. How do we fight this, especially us, the young generation? Well, yes, historical facts get twisted a lot, rewritten a lot. I'm very happy that these days in Russia we put in a lot of efforts to counteract these attempts. We have certain societies who try to sort these things out. And if we raise this question here today, that means you understand there is a problem, which is very good. So what should you do? You should read historical literature. You should understand what happened in our past, in our recent past. We need to know what really happened. Were there 28, did 28 Panfilov heroes exist? How did Kerensky really act? What games did he play with other political leaders? Why did he argue with Kornilov? Why did we have a revolution in Russia? And so on and so forth. What the Great Patriotic War means to us. Why is it beneficial to someone that we have an opinion that the war was won only because we spilled so much blood? Who benefits from saying that our military leaders were useless? So we need to understand all this. We need to study history. We have 10 more minutes. Please be specific and brief. Mr. Bezrukov, my name is Kirill. I'm from Saratov. I'd like to ask you personally, how do I get into your theater studio? I have a theater, but I have no classes. I conduct no classes yet. But as soon as I start them, I'll announce it, of course. How soon? Well, I don't really know how soon. We need young actors, we really do. And every year I hold auditions for young performers. I try to involve young people, even if I don't put them on the payroll, so that they could practice professionally. So, send your applications. One more question from over here, please. My question is addressed to all speakers. I think it's no secret that many teenagers who want to go to university, study art, they get no approval from their parents because it doesn't pay well. People are scared, so they don't go into this sphere. But their parents are against it, and so they go and study things they don't actually want to study. And as a result, some talented people never fulfill their dreams. Well, in Russia, sometimes things happen against all odds, as you know, like Mr. Lomonosov. Maybe if he followed into his father's footsteps, he would never have been the Lomonosov we know. So it's all about overcoming obstacles. Trust yourself. Believe in yourself. You have to try, because once you get old, you're going to feel sorry that you've never tried. Well, make mistakes, but try. It should be fruitful. You should look at things in a more lighthearted way. Hello, Sergey. Finally, it's my turn to ask a question. I'm an actor. I work in a theater in the city that I live in. So my question is about art. So when you have doubts about yourself, maybe you get shouted at by your director, you're thinking maybe you're doing something wrong. So how do you know that you've chosen the right path, that you can be useful to society? What do you do when you feel dispirited, disheartened? Well, this is a very difficult question. I need to have a separate masterclass to tell you how not to lose inspiration, how not to become dispirited. It's a profession that brings happiness, so you have to make people happy. If the director is not happy with you, well, if your family loves you, if your friends love you, you're an artist, in a way. And if the director doesn't find you interesting, well, that's his problem. A performer, an artist, it's a very creative profession. I don't remember a boring performer that would be so bright on stage, but off stage, just a boring person. No, it doesn't happen that way. Sometimes performers are introverted. It can happen. They on stage and off stage, they're kind of closed off. They can be genius people, but I think if you shine bright, it happens on stage and off stage, both. I think the most important thing is not to exclude your family, just put walls between you and your family and friends and people around you. If you're a performer or an artist, it's all for other people. It's all about being useful to other people. Well, you could go to an orphanage and put up a play. 5 minutes, just 5 minutes. Good morning. I'm Anastasia from Krasnodar. So do you think journalism is part of world culture?
It's the question to all. Irina, can you give an answer, please? Well, yes, possibly myself, because I am a journalist. And I think that certainly a journalist can be more responsible as a physician for the people than an artist can, because journalism tells us about culture and sometimes even more than an artist can do, because not every artist can tell the whole thing, to drive home to the people all the details, to the mass consumer, I mean. So journalist, in a way, is an interpreter. And in this way, a good journalistics is part of global culture. Yes. The next question. A question from foreign participant. Mariam from Tunisia.
We're too egoist to ask for freedom while we are depriving other creatures from their freedom. And how can you define freedom? Because it's kind of relative from one person to another, from one culture to another. So if we are too egoist to deprive other creatures from their freedom, how can we ask for it? This is irresponsible, don't you think? Thank you.
Well, I think art is freedom. You cannot do art without freedom. Art is making something that people don't need, and you just pretend that you have something to say that is new, original, and beautiful. And so you have to create something that does not exist nowhere in the world. You just create something new, so you need total freedom for that, I think. I take one example. because we're talking about freedom and it's important here in Russia. I was in Moscow and I visited the house of Gorky. It's big, big, big house. It's a museum and you have nobody. It's a beautiful house, but it's empty. Gorky was very popular when he was alive, and now it's empty. If you visit also another house, the house of Bulgakov, Bulgakov's house, it's also a museum. It's a small house because he was censored. He could not express himself. When he was alive, nobody knew him. And then now it's full of people, full of young people like you, many, many people. And there is also a big cat in his house in Moscow. So this should maybe show us the way. Bulgakov, he was disobeying. He was not free when he was alive. Gorky was a famous, successful, everybody loved Gorky. But now Bulgakov, I think Bulgakov won because he was talking about the devil. Thank you.
Извините, пожалуйста, можно такой тоже?
Sorry, general question or request. Well, everybody's at the back. Please please advise one book and one movie we have to read and see. Thank you. That was the last question, folks. Sorry, no panic. The speakers are answering the question, and we are finishing the conference. Lover in a turtleneck. Lover.
And the best film, City Lights by Charlie Chaplin.
Edgar?
Friends, may I not answer the question, just to say thank you to all of you, cultural people who stayed here for quite a lot have left. Well, not very nice of them. And I would like to say thank you to you that you are still here.